Contrary to popular belief and the misguided expectations of many churches, strong and effective leaders do not just magically appear out of thin air. They must be intentionally developed in knowledge, skill, experience, and maturity. Convergence is CB Northwest's 3-year pastoral training program that works together with local churches to raise up next-generation leaders.
A number of years ago, when I became the executive director of CB Northwest, we had many churches that were without pastors, and we had no way of developing next-generation pastors. That need became a driving force at CB Northwest. How do we identify, train, and launch next-generation pastors through a program that would put them working in the local church and under a mentor, a senior pastor? So Convergence became the farm club for helping our churches identify their next-generation leadership, to train those leaders as pastors, and then to present them into churches as those who would lead our churches into the future. And so Convergence has become our training ground for next-generation pastors.
The tagline for Convergence is Old School, New Leaders. We call it old school because, like Jesus and the Apostle Paul, we believe that leaders need to be discipled, not just educated. We call it new leaders because we believe that every generation within a local church has a responsibility to fulfill God's biblical mission for that church.
The appeal of Convergence for me is the environment in which we learn. At most schools and religious institutions, you're presented with truth, and then you're graded on your ability to remember and regurgitate that truth. But at Convergence, we're presented with truth, but then we're graded and tested on our ability to apply that in the context of ministry in the local church. And this is a beautiful place to learn and to grow as a leader in ministry. And I also love the fact that I get to do this with a group of guys in my cohort. For 3 years, I get to walk with my brothers on this journey. They know my story. I know theirs. They know what's going on in my church. They can hold me accountable to all the things that God is teaching me and to apply it. So I would encourage anybody to definitely check it out. It's worth the time and the investment.
The cohort setting of Convergence was a blessing to me in my life, because God used that to create growth within me that I didn't know I needed to grow. God exposed in me distortions that the gospel of Jesus addresses. So the growth within Convergence was bigger than the growth I had the rest of my Christian life. Also, being able to serve in my local church while I was in the Convergence program was huge, because I was able to take what I was learning and use it within the ministry God had me working with right there. I didn't have to move or go to a different setting. I could be right there in our local church using the principles and teaching that I was learning.
If you're a pastor or other leader in your church and you'd like to know more about what it means to raise up next generation leaders in your church, I'd love to talk to you. If you're a man, regardless of your age or experience, and you feel God might be calling you to a more defined role of leadership within your church, but you're not sure what that looks like or how you might get there, I'd love to talk to you.
Convergence is really a unique learning environment. What I love about the environment itself is that you are in an intense situation for 2.5 days. I mean, that's equivalent to a 2-hour class over 10 weeks. But rather than all the other distractions, we get to zero in, and you get to, in a sense, get material, but also process. And so it's our goal for you to be so inundated by the idea that these truths in your life have to live in tension, that you have to figure out what goes, what stays, and what needs to be added, so that you'll learn how to shepherd people through those same exact questions. As an instructor, I've taught at seminaries and Bible schools, and usually I get rated on how well I've done with the material. What I love about Convergence is that we actually evaluate how well do the students do with the material, and that's our win.
At Convergence, we're looking for men who have the courage to lead themselves as they learn to lead others. Are you one of those men?